Have you seen the Israeli representation of the UN? Yeah.
such as
Meanwhile, this is what the psychopathic Israeli ambassador to the UN is saying on UN. It's not doctors are all Hamas. Doctors Without Borders are Hamas. UNRWA is Hamas. The World Health Organization is Hamas.
from all the other libelous UN organizations, committees, and also, sadly, from the Secretary General himself. They do not reflect the situation on the ground. Yes, diplomatic niceties require us to thank them for their work. But sadly, they are relaying falsehoods that are completely detached from reality. For years, the UN has refused to establish verification mechanisms that can provide us a truthful picture of reality. WHO is it that supplies the UN with these so-called facts. Who is it that supplies the UN with these so-called facts? Is this information coming from unbiased and impartial third parties? The answer is no. Every piece of information regarding the situation on the ground that this council receives comes from Hamas, not international UN employees in Gaza.
The funniest part about this, the reason why you can't have third-party international verifiers on the ground is because Israel kills them. This is in the eve of Israel killing 110 plus UN workers. And he's also simultaneously saying that the UN workers are also biased and liars. What are you saying? Like you're literally saying they're biased liars, but also simultaneously you're saying they're Hamas adjacent. While simultaneously there's no international community like organizations there. It's like, how could there ever be when you kill them and then also call the ones that are there Hamas?
That Hamas, a genocidal terror organization, controls every facet of Gaza. Every number from the so-called Ministry of Health is Hamas. Many UNRWA workers in Gaza are themselves members of Hamas. The time has come to bust the myth of UN-supplied facts.
He says the UN won't establish third-party verification on the ground, which Israel doesn't allow, by the way. Just remember that. And then says the UN members themselves are Hamas. Okay. You're surrounded by Hamas militants, dog. Maybe we should let Israel deal with that in the way that Israel knows how to deal with it while you're in the building. You know what I mean? What the fuck is this?
Council is being spoon-fed lies by the very same terrorist organization that deliberately murdered and maimed thousands of innocent Israelis just 34 days ago. Hamas has ensured that every square meter of Gaza is under their complete reign of terror. Many ambulances drivers are Hamas members. Local contributors to international media are Hamas members. We saw this week that innocent photojournalists for Reuters and the New York Times not only documented Hamas's horrors, but crossed into Israel to film them with the terrorists themselves.
Everyone is Hamas except for us, but maybe we're Hamas too. I don't know how to deal with that. Their line is that the journalists could have stopped October 7th. Their line is a lie anyway. None of these fucking journalists were like embedded with Hamas, even though technically in a military operation, which October 7th was a brutal, barbaric, ruthless one, there are fucking journalists embedded with the IDF right now as they're mercilessly slaughtering 1,000 times more children than Hamas did. But it's not allowed to kill them. If you killed them, that would be completely unacceptable. The point is, those journalists were not embedded anyway. The idea that like journalists embedded with militants that literally document their war crimes. They're not like fucking censoring their faces. They're literally documenting war crimes. Like, what the fuck are you complaining about? Like, you're mad that they are documenting war crimes, dog. That is insane. How are we supposed to know what the fuck is going on the ground? Those dudes did something incredibly fucking brave. They took photos of everything that was going on October 7th. The idea that those guys are all Hamas and deserve death is insane. Especially when you use their photography to say, look at all the fucking war crimes that Hamas engaged in on October 7th. It blows my goddamn mind. But yeah, everyone is Hamas until I say so. That's it. Everyone is Hamas. Every single person is Hamas. They all deserve death. This will never stop. These guys are genocidal monsters. Genocidal monsters. And no one is reining them in. I don't know what to fucking say. I don't know what to do. Yeah, the My Lai massacre literally had a U.S. Army journalist with them when they executed innocent civilians. Reuters was Hamas as well. Journalists, AP journalists were Hamas. Everyone's Hamas. Oh, speaking of which, update on that front, as a matter of fact. Yesterday, an article came out that was absolutely ridiculous, preposterous, saying that all of the journalists all of the Palestinian journalists who took photos on October 7th had actually embedded with Hamas and knew about the attack prior. That was the implication. Today, that very same website, that website wrote this report. We covered it. We read it. And then like Israeli officials immediately started saying, oh, we're just going to fucking kill. We're putting a hit out on journalists, pretty much. Now, in my opinion, it was a justification for the 39 journalists that they had killed already. Justification that came after the fact, of course. HonestReporting.com. Today, the executive director of the website that accused Palestinian photojournalists of knowing about October 7 Hamas attack in Israel in advance says it has no evidence to support the claim. The report led the Israeli politicians to suggest that journalists be killed. Bill Hoffman, executive director of Honest Reporting, admitted Thursday the group had no evidence to back up this suggestion. He said he was satisfied with subsequent explanations from several of the journalists that did not know. They were legitimate questions to be asked, Hoffman said. Despite the name Honest Reporting, he said, we don't claim to be a news organization. Just think about that. Think about how fucking ridiculous this is. At this point, it's just like someone writes a fucking blog post, which, by the way, I don't know what their connection is to the Israeli government, but I don't think it's literally out of nowhere. But that slander is weaponized as a justification for the 39 journalists that have been executed so far by Israel. And it's used as a way to demand more journalists be killed. Closed a statement issued by the New York Times in response to the allegations made by Honest Reporting and made others. Freelance photographer Yusuf Masood, who has contributed to the coverage of Israel-Hamas war for a number of outlets, including the New York Times. The advocacy group Honest Reporting has made vague allegations about several freelance journalists, including Yusuf Masood. Though Masood was not working for the Times on the day of the attack, he has since done important work for us. There's no evidence for Honest Reporting's insinuations. Our review's work shows that he was doing what photojournalists always do during major news events, documenting the tragedy as it unfolded. We also want to speak in defense of freelance photojournalists working in conflict areas whose job often required them to rush into danger to provide first-hand witness accounts and to document important news. Exactly. Honest Reporting works for the Israeli state? Oh, really? Oh, it's a 501c3 charitable organization recognized by the IRS, monitoring the media. Since 2004, Honest Reporting has been organizing trips to the Jewish state, providing you with the opportunity to observe the real facts on the ground. The CEO of Honest Reporting is former AIPAC. Executive director is former Jerusalem Post. I mean, that makes sense, yeah. I mean, I don't know who is behind this operation, but it wouldn't shock me if it has like some connection to the Israeli Foreign Ministry. Usually, a lot of these are Hasbara fronts for sure. It doesn't matter if this organization is directly working hand in hand with the Israeli government, because the Israeli government takes that information and immediately fucking uses it to justify whatever the fuck it wants to do and to justify things that it has done so far. All right, let's see this. In an extended interview, Krishnan Guru Murphy asked Israel's ambassador
Do you have any empathy
to the UK, Tzipi Hotoveli, whether she has empathy for the Palestinian people. Watch in full. Let's take a look at the whole.
This small place of
Okay, that's too long. Let's
the
just
Palestinian position?
I have zero empathy to people that time after time refuse to recognize the right of the Jewish state to their homeland, the Jewish people in their homeland. I have zero sympathy because I want to live in a world where we can live together.
How can you live together
But they deny my right to exist.
If you have zero empathy, in your own words, with those people?
No, it's not what I said. I said I have zero sympathy to the fact that they lost their land. They didn't lose their land. They committed the crime of attacking the small state of Israel after the UN decision.
So do you have any empathy with the Palestinian people?
Absolutely. I think that.
What is your empathy?
I think my empathy to the Palestinian people, that we could have had a flourishing region, having the best high tech, the best life.
That's an argument.
No.
I'm asking you share their pain for a moment.
So I'll just give you an example, okay? The best flourishing economic areas are in Judea and Samaria, where you have factories that have Palestinians and Israelis working together. That could have been the vision everywhere. But when you refuse to recognize the right of a Jew to exist.
This is so funny that she's saying that. That's in the West Bank. And it's literally because you can like exploit the Palestinians in the apartheid state, but also in the occupied West Bank that they're illegally occupying. That was the entirety of the Israeli economy, you dumb fuck. That was how it worked until Israel was like, oh shit, we can't use Palestinian cheap labor no more because honestly, we're too racist for it. We have to shut everything off. We have to just like make the occupation way worse for the Palestinians. Ridiculous to prop up the illegally occupied West Bank as like an economic flourishment when the conditions of said, economic boost comes from literally indentured servitude in the form of like being victim to an occupation. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
So I think this ideology that doesn't want Jews to exist, this is a tragedy. I don't think
That's not empathy.
No, what I'm trying to say, that empathy comes when you have the understanding that have the right to exist. Unfortunately, there were people in Hamas that they showed that clearly, that they didn't believe that any of the Jewish people in the state of Israel need to exist.
So there is no, the truth is there is no empathy
I
between
have
you and the
empathy for
Palestinian
the
people.
tragedy of the leadership, yes. I have empathy that they're under the tragedy of their leadership.
This is a very hopeless conversation then.
I like that every conversation with an Israeli official, if they're talking to a skilled interlocutor that genuinely wants to question them, rather than just like sit there and nod, always turns into literally becoming the bloodthirsty freaks that they say Hamas is. It's insane to me that they'll just be like, Hamas are bloodthirsty monsters that want to kill all the Jews, like they hate the Jews, and then they turn around and literally behave in the exact same way that they claim Hamas is, okay? And I'm sure there's people like that in Hamas. Yeah, we know that there are people like that in Hamas. But the difference is they're not getting interviewed by fucking Channel 4 and every other fucking news outlet. Like, Anderson Cooper isn't going up to, like, Ismail Haniyeh and being like, so, can you tell us what's going on with why it's totally legal and valid to do October 7? Like, it's nuts. It doesn't work that way. Can you imagine? Like, in a role reversal world where, like, Anderson Cooper is, like, in Gaza talking to fucking Ismail Haniyeh or Doha, and he's like, yeah, these Jews, they do not recognize our right to exist, which is why we hate them and want to wipe all of them out. And then Anderson Cooper's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Thank you for your conversation. Now we're going to talk about how bloodthirsty the Israelis are. Like, it would never work that way. It's just insane. It doesn't work that way. Everyone would say that's fucking ridiculous. But Israel gets to do that every fucking day. Every goddamn day on television. Oh, I saw this. I think he bodies this guy, right?
Because it's a convenient response, isn't it? That every time there is an Israeli strike on some sort of facility inside Gaza, you just tell us that Hamas is operating there and that's why you're fighting back. We understand that.
I'm sorry.
The UN here, though, is saying that its facility, the UN, internationally recognised body, the UN says that its facility in Gaza was attacked by your forces overnight and this morning reporting a significant number of deaths. The point is that is in contravention of international humanitarian law, and people need somewhere that is safe to go if you are telling them to evacuate from the north of Gaza.
I have to push back because the insinuation in your question is that Israel takes pleasure at taking pot shots at civilian facilities.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying at every
Oh, dude, they're killing a fuck ton of people, but they don't take any pleasure in it. Okay, never mind. That's fine, dude. Again, having like an Al-Qassam guy go on television, can you imagine him being like, listen, we take no pleasure in killing Israeli children. We don't want to do it. We don't want to fucking do it, but we just got to do it. Now, even in that situation, like, it's not even comparable because, like, Hamas has no capabilities of doing October 7 over and over again. You know what I mean? Israel has already done, by the most valid metrics, 10 October 7s. They've done 10 of those over the course of the past month. Like, think about that. They have all the power. They are the occupying force. They could just not do any of those things. This notion of, like, whether you take pleasure in it or not is completely ridiculous. It has nothing to do with the conversation at all. Oh, you don't like blowing up hospitals? Shit, man. Well, you sure do it a lot. You sure keep doing it. Can you stop? If you don't like it, maybe stop. That'd be great.